To order. Okay, we're going to start opening up with the committee roll call. Dr. Fagan Bush.
Ms. Jones?
Here.
Ms. Onson? Here. Ms. Broussard? Mr. Burrell? Here. Ms. Kolar? Mr. Condell? Here. Ms. Gant? Here. Ms. Jackson? Here. Ms. Johnson?
Present.
Ms. Marinella? Ms. Pellerin?
Here.
Ms. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Toops?
Here.
Ms. Watson-Smalls?
Here.
Myself and Mr. Holmes?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, we're going to start over with the new business. We're going to discuss item number 1. Discuss or take action to add level 1 consequence for K-5 students that violates the willful disobedience infraction code 1, currently level 2. Mr. Holmes?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Would you turn to page number 4? Page 4. And there is a proposal to add level 1 consequences for K through 5 students only. For example, now, any student that violates the willful disobedience infraction, grade levels K through 12, all receive level 2 consequences. But the proposal is for K through 5 students only, if they violate the willful disobedience infraction, that they would now receive level 1 consequences. And level 1 consequences are at the bottom of the page where it says first offense, they would receive 1 or 2 hours of detention. Second offense, 2 to 4 hours of detention. Third offense, 1 day of ISS. Fourth offense, they would receive 1 or 2 days of ISS. Now, the proposed change is for K through 5 students only. If you're 6th through 12th, you would still receive the level 2 consequences. Are there any questions? Ms. Jones.
Do we have any recommendations? Yes, ma'am. Is there a second?
A second.
What's your name?
Ms. Smith?
Ms. Smith first the motion, and Coach Jackson, Principal Jackson, second the motion. Any discussions? Okay. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion has passed. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna move on to number 2. Discuss and or take action to add language to the profound language infraction, code 4, level 1, to include inappropriate gesture and derogatory slurs for K through 5 students. Mr. Holmes.
Okay, committee members, if you would turn to page number 5 in your booklet. Okay, and this pertains to students who violate the profane or obscene language infraction. Currently, the policy reads that if a student violates that infraction, they would, by using vulgar words, messages, swearing, and any other inappropriate language toward another student. The proposal is to add, in addition to vulgar words, messages, swearing, and other inappropriate language toward another student, the proposal is to add including gestures. For example, some students like to give students that middle finger, or they call it shooting the bird, racial slurs, and homophobic slurs. So that's the only edit of or revision of the policy. They just wanted to add those gestures, racial slurs, and homophobic slurs. And This change would be for all of the students, K through 12, not just K through 5 only, K through 12.
So do we have any recommendation proposal on, item number 2 with inappropriate gesture and derogatory slur? This is being added to number 2. Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Smith, do you mind pushing a little bit so that way they can hear you in our?
Okay, my question is, I know that the language, profane, obscene, all of that, inappropriate, it's generic, and then we've added some more specific language. What about sexual, like inappropriate sexual remarks as well? Is that covered under vulgar or obscene?
I think that's a broad heading, yes.
Okay.
But
So I see we're getting more specific.
yes, well, I guess some of the principals are having problems with kids using those racial slurs and homophobic slurs, and of course, wanting to point that middle finger. So they just wanted to add that specifically.
So, Mr. Holmes, there was a suggestion on the agenda. It wasn't as specific as racial and homophobic because there are so many other slurs that could be done, that it would just be changed to derogatory, so that way we're not missing any of the opportunities. Because if we just do racial and homophobic, there are many other things that could happen. And so we actually just thought about change it to derogatory itself. And then it would cover so many other things.
Okay.
So it would basically eliminate racial slurs and homophobic slurs, just say derogatory slurs.
And what about the gestures part of it? It includes,
Derogatory gestures?
It was inappropriate gestures.
Okay, so do we have a recommendation or proposed vote? Okay.
I make a motion that we accept the proposed change with the new changes to inappropriate gestures and derogatory slurs.
Can I have a second motion? Okay. I'm sorry, I need the names. Ms. Passed the first motion, and Ms. Antoinette? Second. Okay. Okay, all in favor? Okay, we're gonna move on to, item number 3. I'm sorry, you had a question, ma'am? Oh, no, I forgot to turn this on. Oh, okay, all right. Item number 3, discuss and take action to change the leave in the classroom without permission, infraction code 18, level 2 to level 1, violation from K through 5. Mr. Holmes.
okay, committee members, if you would turn to page number 6. There is a proposal to change the consequences for K through 5 students who violate the leaving the classroom without permission infraction. And the proposal is that as opposed to K through 5 students receiving level 2 consequences, they are proposing that the K through 5 students receive level 1 consequences when they violate that infraction. Now, 6th through 12th, again, it would receive the same level 2 consequences that they currently receive. This would only affect K through 5 students, and the proposal, once again, is that they receive level 1 consequences and not level 2.
Okay, so do we have any recommendation proposal on this action? Any changes? Any comments? Can I get a motion?
I move that we accept the proposed change for item number 3.
Can we get a second?
I second the motion.
Okay. Okay, it has been moved by Ms. Smith, second by Ms. Johnson, that item 3B, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye has passed. Item number 4, discuss and/or take action to add a threatening faculty code 50, level 3, to the discipline matrix for 12 through K through 12 students that make threats toward a St. Mary Parish employee. Mr. Mahomes.
Okay, if everyone would turn to page number 7. Currently, our new discipline matrix, and let me just take the time to say kudos to Dr. Sanders and everyone who helped with the new discipline matrix. The majority, overwhelming majority of the principals love it, and they are happy that they know exactly what punitive consequences to give out to students when they violate the student code of conduct. But one principal asked me to consider proposing to the committee tonight to add this threat to St. Mary Parish employees to the discipline matrix because currently Code 50 is not a part of our discipline matrix. And the reason why they wanted it added was because sometimes, now let me say this unequivocally, we don't want our students threatening teachers or faculty members, period. But they wanted to differentiate between a terroristic threat and a threat that was less severe. Okay, for example, with a terroristic threat, if a student says that they're gonna, or they post online, or they say that they're coming to school tomorrow and shooting up the school, that's a terroristic threat. And law enforcement would immediately be involved, et cetera. But the non-terroristic threat that they are referencing, that they want added, is less severe. For example, I tell Miss Estee, she's made me upset in class today. Snitches get stitches. Okay, or I tell Dr. Sanders, by the time I got to her class, I'm gonna go get my mother or my daddy for you. It's not a terroristic threat, okay? But I wanna repeat, we don't want the students threatening, period. But this type of threat doesn't raise or rise to the level of a terroristic threat. And they would receive level 3 consequences if they made a non-terroristic type of threat, or they made a threat that didn't meet the definition of a assault. So that's why they're asking the committee to consider adding Code 50, threat to St. Mary Parish employees, that would be a level 3 infraction, as opposed to being a level 4 terroristic threat or a threat of a physical assault, which would also be level 4. Now, level 4 means that the kids are gonna get suspended pending a hearing, and they're gonna have to come and tell us about the situation. And again, they're gonna be interviewed by law enforcement. So this level 3 threat would not require a suspension pending a hearing until the student had made some type of threat for the 4th time. So comparison to a terroristic threat, they're gonna be suspended pending a hearing each and every time they make that type of threat. Are there any questions?
Definition of assault, verbal or physical? And then what's the differentiation between like a verbal assault versus this step-down threat?
The assault, by definition, within the matrix would be, again, more severe. And I'm making a more specific threat when I'm assaulting you.
So, Mr. Holmes, as a point of clarification.
Yes.
So a level 4 is physical, and the level 3 is verbal or nonverbal, something gesture. Because level 4 would be if they actually, a student struck you.
Wait. A level 4, if it's a terroristic threat, they posted it, or they made a verbal threat that they're going to shoot up the school, or shoot up a basketball game, or shoot up graduation. Now, level 3, as I gave an example, where a student would say snitches get stitches, or I'm gonna go get my parent, or whatever, to come up to the school to take care of you, they're not being that specific with
So
the threat.
if a student in high school, so, gets in your face and says, I'm gonna whip your butt, but doesn't touch, but in a very aggressive manner, what's the differentiation?
I think that one would fall up under the category level 4.
Level 4, okay.
Yes.
So do we need to put any? Yeah, I feel like we need a little bit more specific language.
Can I share a little more information? So when you get to assault and the definition for level 4, it's actually the civil definition under legal code for police officers. So if it's an assault, it's a verbal assault where you are creating a fear in the person that you have said these words to. They fear for themselves physically or mentally, or maybe you might hurt something that's one of their possessions. But it has to meet a three-prong test. So you create that fear, the student has the means to go through with that fear, and there's one other one, and I can't think of it off of the top of my head, but when you do the threat assessment, the student has the means and the will, and so it has to fit that definition to be a verbal assault by law. That's why it's a level 4 as an assault, and the law enforcement is involved immediately. That's also where you have to take whoever the employee is, they need to be notified immediately. You need to make sure that they're in a safe place, and you take care of all those things as well. This would be somewhere between that severe verbal assault and disrespect, which is a level 2. So it's more than disrespect, but it's not a verbal assault where someone really has a true fear and the kid really wants to hurt them. It's more of an in-between, which would still be severe consequences, but it's not fitting the legal definition of verbal assault.
So then the language verbal, nonverbal, gestured, written, or printed statement of intention to inflict pain, injure, or any other hostile action, that reads to me like that's a level 4. So should that language be mitigated, lessened a little bit to match this level 3 consequence?
That will be a committee decision. But level 4 is set aside for those severe consequences that matches the definition.
And I get that.
Level 2 is your not simple disrespect, but you know what I mean.
An elevated,
Level 3 somewhere in the middle. The
Okay.
language that we choose to go with as far as a definition, I'm not on the committee, I'm just trying to give y'all where we're at right now.
no, that clarifies, but then now I feel like this language at the top this is level 4 that I'm reading here.
Level 4 would be terroristic, Leslie, like, so the whole school, we're really getting law enforcement, whereas where this is going is they threaten you, but you don't fear for your life. And I've been in your shoes, I've seen your hallways. That's kind of where it's going. I think the word intention is the word that's getting
Yeah.
because do they really have intention on harming you? You're a great teacher and you can differentiate between, do they really have intention to do this, or are they just running their mouth?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And I think that intentional word is probably the word that is.
But I also have seen teachers with students say, I fear that they intend to harm me, but then from another perspective, the child may have said something like snitches get stitches, but the teacher interpreted it as a threat, and now the child is at a level 4.
100%.
So I'm
Is
just
that
thinking
where
on the
the
side of the
threat assessment comes into
child,
play?
yeah.
Like, do we
maybe-
not?
So I
you
feel
write
like
But if the
referral,
teacher
but then
says, "I
after the
feel,"
threat assessment, then do you
Yeah.
make that
Right,
decision
out
at
of
that point?
anger, I feel, now we're at a level 4,
because some people
which
are
is
more
terroristic.
sensitive
Yes.
than others,
And Ms. Smith, you bring up a good point.
Exactly.
And perhaps
Exactly.
Dr. Sanders and I can take a look at those definitions, because the assault definition in the discipline matrix mirrors closely this definition. Yes, that's what I say, this. Yes. Yes, we're gonna have to go back and revise that definition.
Just a question, would the committee think about perhaps looking at this for K-5 as different than 612?
Yeah, I've seen
I'm
both.
talking about severity. You know what I'm saying? This is the same action steps for K through 12. Do
No,
you
they
think
don't
that
have
we
the
should divide it
language.
somehow?
The babies don't have the language or the, I mean, some of them do, but I'm saying I'm saying they could say, I want to hurt you, but not understand the full capacity behind those words. Some do. And
Right,
also
that's my
the
point.
ability to carry out a
Because
threat.
right now, this is the same thing for K through 12.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tamika West, and I am the St. Mary Parish alternative teacher for K through 5. With that being said, it is a bit different because when the kid that's K through 5 speaks and said, F you, Miss West, I hate you, Miss West, those words are hurtful, right? However, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour later, they're still trying to get in your good graces, your good grace. So it's a little bit different with the little ones, I must say, that at some point when they're back to their normal state, they're not wanting to do those things anymore. So it is a bit different with the K through 5. Just wanted to put that in there. Thank you.
And I would also argue that kids who have a traumatic background, we know we learned the TBRI training, even the older ones, they may say things in the moment when they're, I can't remember if it's upper brain, lower brain, front brain, back brain, but I do know when they feel the fear, then things will come out that again, an hour later, once they've returned back to a more rational state, the intention is no longer there. So I just don't know. We're still dealing with children, even if they're 18 years old. They're still, 17, 18, I still think they're all still children. And I just,
To answer your question,
I'm not confident that adults will not use this against them.
So can we make a motion to table this so that more discussion can be done to, one, look at the separation between K to 5 and 6 to 12, and also to refine some of the language maybe till the next time?
Yes, that's what's gonna be the suggestion, to have this table until we get more clarification on everything and kind of read the metric and kind of like the K through 12, K through 5. I don't think, like I say, just a little more clarification on that
Oh,
one,
I'll
okay?
make that motion.
I'll
So,
second that motion.
Okay,
Gant.
thank you. Any other questions or comments on? Any other discussions? So we're gonna just table it, okay? All righty. Item number 5. Discuss the option to pilot the use of cell phone storage lock-in pouches to our ETCD procedure. Dr. Fagenbush.
This item is really like for informational purposes, and this is not me advocating for this company, even though the name's on front. Let me turn around this other way. We are required now to make sure by law that our students do not have active cell phones during the school instructional time. And so there are a lot of things out there. What do we need to do? How do we address this? How do we support the kids? Because I'm like them. If my phone's next to me, I sometimes instinctively just pick it up without even thinking to see what's going on. And so there are options now where you can have, this one's called a safe pouch, but there are many other versions. There's a different version, I think, in yonder is here. But with this option, for example, this is a little locking mechanism, like a little magnetic thing, like you see in stores to stop shoplifting. So this is kind of the same as far as the way it locks. And so every teacher would have the mechanism to unlock the pouch. So kids are given a pouch assigned to them, and there's some tags that go with them. This is made of like that very heavy duty scuba diving neoprene. So it's very hard to destruct, cut, everything. So when they would come in, their name will be on it. They will have a pouch. There are many options. You can let them keep it for the year. right? You can instead, every day they come in and slide it in. So there are different ways, and I would really honestly leave that up to the practice of the school itself and what best works for their setting. But the idea is that they can be costly at first, to pilot them in a couple settings just to see how that practice would look, just so we can help the students, help themselves, and us too. When they would leave at the end of the day, it's unlocked, they pull their stuff out and they go. It can be washed, because our babies, me too, I would get chocolate on it from all the Snickers that I eat and things like that, so it can be washed. So there's just a lot of positives to it. We would just have to do a pilot to practice what it might look like and then bring it before the discipline committee for like full implementation.
Okay, so will this be only for the high school level, middle school, or?
The idea is 6 through 12. Our little ones really we don't have a huge issue with cell phones, but 6 through 12 is where they really start to want to bring it to school. And they do need it after school. We don't have pay phones anymore, any of those kind of things. So they do need access to their phones. So this would be probably piloting in 2 different size middle schools and 2 different size high schools just to see how it would work.
Okay, any comments, recommendations, or how do y'all feel?
One of my questions when I read it was, what happens when the mechanism doesn't work and you have 30 students in your classroom ready to go to the next class? That's one of the things I would want to know from the company. Like, is somebody going to come out? Like, because we all know if you have 30 high school students at 2:30 and the bell rings and they can't get their phones, it's going to be chaos.
Yeah, they have toolkits that come with everything that you can fix it, take it apart. Like this little piece even comes out when it's not connected, and so that way it's easier to wash. And there's a little, I shouldn't have stuck it together, but I did because I'm ADHD and I played with it and I closed it. But there's a little piece of metal that goes in and connects, so it's really easy if you had to clip it with a metal cutter. But every teacher would have that toolkit, and they would have this mechanism in their classroom.
With high school students, would they be able to take those to class or still leave them in their lockers?
No. Once they're secured with their phones, they just slide it in their bag and they carry it around with them all day. So that when they leave, even if they're checking out and they're going to the office ladies, so it was something that pretty much, but if this is it, then we could do lots of things with it, They can't get into it. And so,
So I have some discussion. So with that, just like Ms. Jackson said, they can't carry their phones around at our school either. So to pick the device up, I mean, it does take the liability, because sometimes teachers are like, because our teachers, we have a case for them, but that'll take the liability off of them in case they break. However, them carrying those around, that is going to be a distraction too. So, I mean, would we still be able to, you would leave that up to the school if we wanted to pick those up?
that's kind of why we would want to pilot it, because if we had different size schools and we had, different administrators who want to try different things, they would go through and say best practices, this worked, this didn't work, before we would say this is how we want it to be, because the day-to-day boots on the ground, what happens when you don't think about it, that's something that's going to need to be worked out with the administrators and the students. They're probably going to have better feedback for us, the kids, on what's going to work best, because they want to do what they can to make sure they're good with their phones and we're following the practice. So, yeah, those are good questions.
They feel secure because they have it with them. Even if they, so they can't use it anyway until the last block.
I wrote a couple of notes that just came to mind. Number one, we would have a bunch of empty pouches with no phones in it because they shove their phones here and they shove their phones here. So I picture them not putting them in there to begin with. And then I picture them losing the case, just like they do their laptops and their laptop chargers, and leaving them all over. I see them refusing to use it, period. I'm not putting my phone in there. I'm not locking my phone. I'm not going to not have access to my phone. If there's an emergency, we have to find this magnet and, you know, so those are the,
Shouldn't have access to the phone, they're supposed to be in their lockers.
supposed to
And
be.
so, I know,
Yeah.
and so I think that would be where the administration really has to say, these are our standards. And this is what we're doing, and
So the magnet would be with each teacher, or is it in a location in the school? Have access to a magnet, okay. So I guess that's comparable to, like when we walked through Lafayette High last year before the law, teachers would have pouch cases that they could put their phones in for the duration of class. They would have a little charging station for them, and then they knew they could, it's picked up during class, and then you can grab it after, so I guess it's like that.
we're always gonna have those who challenge
Yeah,
the process, but we have to make sure we're going forward to create practices that are successful and overcome the challenges, and so that's why we would want to pilot it, because, and on different levels, because we know there's going to be different challenges for each level. Middle schoolers are going to have different concerns than high school.
And what kind of cost are we looking at for the pouches?
They can be quite costly, it depends on the bulk size. And so, it could be up to about $50,000, and I know that sounds like a lot, but they have 4-year warranties and all the parts are guaranteed. And again, this is just this talk.
Okay.
We haven't gone out to say, like, who else can do this? What better price can you have? This is just a conversation to show what the item kind of looks like and what it can do for us. And then from there, of course, we shop the best prices to see what we can get. But everything here with this company, it's 4 years warranty. They replace them if it's broke. So, and a lot of them do the same kind of thing.
Okay, this was only like a presentation she was offering to you guys, and it's like, a discussion, we just want to see how the feel of it, and like I say, she may pilot it, you all may want to pilot it at your school. If you do, we could bring it back to the table. But for right now, it only is a discussion, okay?
I would suggest we bring a student panel in and ask them for their honest thoughts.
Doc, do you need to know if you need to pilot it in a few schools now before we leave today or anything?
That's the idea. Like, this is a practice, so the practice of a school system doesn't have to be it's different than a policy. Like, this is, so if, before we would make it a policy, we'd want to pilot it to see what their practice would look like to bring back to y'all. So that's why we are going to ask a couple schools, you know, would you be interested in this? Like, help us out, kind of see how this works, so we can kind of go from there. And that would be at the beginning of the next school year. That's not in, there's too much happening right now.
So
We
I
said
have a
pilot
question.
this.
Will those companies, I guess, loan you, like to pilot it, will it cost the district money, or would they say? Okay. Okay.
Okay, do we have any other discussion? Any comments on it? Everybody's good with holding on, off on this until we decide on, as a committee, what we're gonna do, right?
After we pilot it.
After we pilot it, yes.
We'd like to be a pilot. Yeah, we'd be a pilot.
You have any other discussion? Okay. Okay, if that is all the discussion we have, ladies and gent, I want to thank everybody, and me on my first meeting. And, like I said, anything that we need to discuss, feel free to call me. I don't have a problem in calling Dr. Fagerbush. I need a meeting. We have a committee, have some discussions. We want to go over some more. Mr. Holmes, I'm sure he'll be glad to come with us on this also. So if there's anything else or nothing else, we will adjourn this